Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Legend of Heroes Trails series overview. I have muted Russ's microphone, Russ's microphone, because he keeps making a smacking sound. So I'll be doing this episode by myself now. And Russ can just sit over there by himself.
Hello.
So what happened was we played the original Trails of in the Sky for a review, and it was fine.
Yes.
And then on my own, I decided, you know what? Let me just get this Trails of Cold Steel 1. Let me see where this series goes that Russ makes such a big fuss over. Let's see how it evolves. And play it. I just played it for fun, and it became one of my top 5 games. It
introduced you to Sarah,
well,
who I think
Sarah will always
is
live in
very
my heart.
near and dear to your heart.
Instructor Sarah is my one true. Well, it's Reen's one true, I think.
True.
I love the Trails of Cold Steel series. Although it's interesting because it's presented as 4 games, and it's really not. It is 2 games of 2.
In terms of story. And
yeah, just...
There's a time skip.
So the first game of Trails of Cold Steel, you are in an empire. Oh, God. The Calvard Empire? No.
Erebonia.
Yes, the Erebonian Empire.
How could you forget Erebonia? Because that's what Reen does in the Erebonian Empire.
So classy.
Yeah.
You are a student going to a famous military academy.
Yes. Erebonia was in the Sky games and Crossbell. It was in
basically as an oppressive
in all of the games, and they're like an oppressive empire. And now all of a sudden you're there.
Yeah, now you're the baddie. Mm-hmm. But you're attending this military academy, which is interesting because it gives a very strong sense of structure to the game. Mm-hmm. The game plays like a Persona 3, 4, or 5, where it keeps track of the dates and certain events happening on certain days, and you getting free time at certain times of the week.
I don't think we would have this game as it exists without Persona 3.
Yeah, it's about forming bonds with your classmates and going on field trips and
dating all of the girls.
And there's the Cold Steel series has so many characters by the end of it. It is ridiculous.
It got out of control, and even like the developers addressed the fact that it really got out of control with how many characters they brought in.
Because especially Cold Steel 4 brings back all of the characters from all of the previous series.
In Cold Steel 4, there are almost 40 playable characters.
It's basically the Avengers Endgame.
It truly is. And the I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but the Trails in the Sky 3 equivalent called Trails of Reverie, which
hasn't come out here yet.
Hasn't come out here yet, but I've watched an extensive YouTube playthrough of it, and it truly is Avengers Endgame. It is like almost every character, literally, that has been in the first 9 games comes back, and they have a big Avengers Endgame moment where everybody gets to hold their fist up in the air and say,
"For Class 7."
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's as much Reverie as we're going to talk about because it hasn't come out. We can't play it. But Cold Steel 1 is, you're a student and you're in a special class. They created a new class just for you that works like a Bracer Guild. Because, again,
they can't really
they came
get
up
out
with
of
this
that
great
idea.
mechanic and then went, oh, do we make them students? No, make them students that act like bracers.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll work. You are the only class in this academy that is made up of the upper
nobles
class
and commoners.
Nobles and commoners.
Erebonia is the only country left on the continent that still has a rigid class system, and they're trying to break that down.
And so you get to see some interclass conflict.
Mm-hmm. From one of my favorite characters, Machias.
I like
who
Machias.
Who is a total dick.
Machias is a lower class guy whose father's actually a governor. And
he's lower class, but his father is the governor.
His father's a governor, which is seen as odd because his father's a commoner who's a governor. Mm-hmm. And he has an enormous stick up his butt about nobility.
Yes.
Because it killed his sister. But, so he's got a real problem with nobility.
The concept of nobility killed his sister.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of. And so he butts heads with Eustace, who is also in the party, who is the second son of the second highest ranking house in the
Duke
Empire.
Alberea. It's second only to the Emperor, and he's the son. But we find out Eustace is the illegitimate son.
Yes.
So Eustace's mother was a commoner mistress of his father.
So much backstory. So basically, anytime Eustace opens his mouth, Machias yells at him to shut up, and then Eustace yells at him to shut up. And
Eustace does not annoy me like Machias does. Eustace has a very dry sense of humor, which I like, and Machias is just a screaming butthole.
But again, one of the nice things about this series is I actually spent time with Machias because he had a ranged area of effect attack. So I spent more time with him. And he grows as a character to the point where in like 3, you start reminding him of some of the stuff he says in 1, and he's like, oh God, please don't remind me. I was such an ass. Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. Please stop bringing it up. Which is nice that you can actually, I mean, admittedly, there's 400 hours of play in this series here. So there's a lot of space for character growth. We also have Laura, who is...
I love Laura.
I enjoy
she's good.
If my character hadn't gone after Instructor Sarah, he would have gone after Laura. I save scummed several relationships because it does have a relationship. It has... In Persona, they're like the bond levels.
Right. Well, in Persona is social links, and then in this game, it is called bonding.
Yeah.
There's like bonding events. And
So
bonding points.
with romanceable and non-romanceable characters, you can actually improve your relationship with characters to get items or buffs or, boosts, whatever. And then at the end of each game, you can have a semi-romantic moment or a bro moment, depending on who you pick, with characters that you were close enough to. So near the end of each game was me save scumming and going through the scenes of every character I had gotten close to during that playthrough.
That is like the criticism I have about this game is that they turned it into a dating sim in a way. And what I don't like, which is something they remedied in Persona, because in Persona 4 and 5, you can have your social links, or what do they call them in Persona 5? Confidant links with the girls, and you can decide if you want it to become romantic or not. But in all the Trails of Cold Steel games, any girl that you spend time with, it automatically becomes romantic, even if it's your own sister.
Well, all of the girls are in love with Reen.
Yes, and again.
But at the end of the
is
games, you get to pick who you share feelings with.
But it's annoying to me that all of the girls are in love with Reen.
They are. Well, all of the girls were in love with Lloyd in the last one, too.
It just wasn't.
It wasn't. They wasn't mechanically enforced,
Right.
but it was there.
Yeah. Including his own sister.
Yeah, we talked about that in the...
Who they were,
Trails in the
and they were
Sky.
raised together since they were babies.
I hate that trope. And Elise is the main character's adopted sister, and her entire personality is I'm in love with my brother.
Yes,
That's it. That's everything.
and everybody seems to want them to get married. Like even their own mom is like, it would just be easier if Reen went ahead and married Elise, and then he could be the new Baron of our town.
And everybody also, first of all, Reen is completely oblivious to his sister being in love with him.
Thankfully,
Yeah.
I would hate it more if Reen were more like 90s anime protagonists who are like into it.
But here's what bothers me too is all of the other characters react like Reen has this severe sister complex. And
he
often,
has no idea.
often it's uncalled for. Like there is a noble classmate named Patrick, who in the first 2 games is a douche.
Yeah.
Eventually, you kind of befriend him near the end of the second one, and then he's a real friend in 3 and 4. Again, lots of character development, even for Patrick, who's not a party member. I think he might become a party member briefly in one of the later games.
Fights with you, no.
Fine, just correct me in front of all these
people. I know
people.
everything about these games.
But it'd be like Patrick shows an interest in your sister. This douchebag is like, hey, could I talk to your sister? And you're like, no, go away. And everybody else goes, oh, he has such an obsession with his own sister. No, he just didn't want the douchebag talking to her. That's a normal level of brotherly concern. Does Japan not know how siblings work at all?
Well, there is historical ideas about adoption that I'm sure this comes from. I just don't like it. They're brother and sister. They've been brother and sister for far too long. I'm worried about the psychological development of Elise that she is this into her brother as a teenager.
But we were talking about Laura at one point.
We were talking about Laura. Laura's cool. Laura's cool because she's a big dork.
Oh yeah, she's a sword dork.
Yeah, who wields a big sword, so nobody makes fun of her about being a dork because she has a sword that's bigger than her.
She's the daughter of one of the greatest swords masters in the world.
Yes,
and she is following his path. And Cold Steel lets you really customize your characters a lot. We haven't. You can tweak them significantly. I made Laura a one-hit monster.
Yeah,
because I set her up with. Basically, her first attack in any combat did something like 4.5 times damage. The trade-off was it took a long time for her to get her second turn. She was one-hit killing bosses, though. I would get into a boss fight. I would activate her super special attack out of sequence that she had built up, and it would one-hit kill the boss over and over and over. I broke the game with Laura. And her relationship with Reen, if they pursue a romantic relationship, is really good.
it is good because they're both dorks.
Then there's
they both like swords.
Elise.
Well, Elise is the crazy sister.
Alyssa
is the canonical romance.
Yeah.
Really. She's the tsundere, which is very tiresome to me. But she's not.
She grows.
She grows.
They all grow and
all
evolve.
But it's weird that they would even include a canonical romance when they give you
So many options.
20 different women,
including your instructor.
that you can date.
Instructor Sarah, the alcoholic tornado.
She's so good.
She is. I love Instructor Sarah. She is so bad at being an instructor, but she calls herself out on it, and yet it all works. There's Fee.
I love Fee.
Fee is great. Fee is basically a cat.
Yes, and not like a cat girl.
No,
she's like
just
a human
who can talk to cats.
Is a cat who
lots of naps in the sun.
Likes to nap. Likes to eat fish nuggets.
And if Laura's built for power, Fee is built for speed.
Yeah,
the
Fee
two
was
of them
my
together.
game-breaking character because Fee is so fast. You can just never let the enemy have a turn. The enemy just never is allowed to have a turn.
So we've talked uses. We've talked. Oh, we forgot
the boring boys, Elliot and Gaius.
Yep.
Elliot and Gaius are far too well-adjusted compared to all of these other characters.
Elliot's just that friend you make on the first day of school, and you're just BFFs in school forever. Yeah. And then Gaius is that foreign exchange student with the accent and the art.
Cannot stop talking about the wind. He's from a tribe of nomadic people who worships the wind, but is also religious.
Yeah.
Like, he's also super into the goddess and the church.
It's like they realized they didn't give him enough personality, so in the third game, they're just like, and now he's an action priest too, secretly, and nobody knew it.
Yeah. It's weird. He's a good boy. They both are, but they're too well-adjusted. They don't get enough drama. And so, Emma's the other one that we forgot. She's a witch.
And
She's a literal
Emma's a witch.
Mm-hmm.
So the first game is very structured, but you're also uncovering pieces of a larger story going on. There's a civil war brewing.
Much like Sky 1, this one is also about terrorism.
Yes.
The first one is about terrorists, like, attacking the government.
The game opens during an action sequence when things are going as wrong as they possibly can, and then you rewind time and see how you got there. Mm-hmm. Sorry, was I talking about the third game or the first game?
You were talking about all of them.
Yeah. And then at the end, a civil war breaks out, which leads to a great dramatic cliffhanger, big dramatic cliffhanger, and then into the second game where you're dealing with the civil war. And it really hits you because of how structured the first game is, and now that structure is gone. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's still days, but there's not school anymore. There's not.
Yeah, it's like the last Harry Potter book. You're not at Hogwarts anymore. You have to use what you've learned to actually save the world, or the country at least. I do enjoy in these games you are never saving the world. This is all about saving your home country and like local and like national politics and
Then the third game opens in the middle of a really dramatic moment that's going as wrong as it possibly could, and then you rewind to see the start where your character is now a teacher at the military academy, and so it's very structured, and you go through class trips that uncover parts of the long. It's basically Yeah, it introduces a whole bunch of new students that you can have romantic ties to, and now there's too many characters.
Yeah.
Three is really formulaic because in addition to having the field trips, you also each field trip ends with a character from the first two games coming and saving you in a boss fight.
Right.
Like every time, it's just like, all right, which character is going to come save us this time? Oh, okay, now it's Fee. Okay, now it's Gaius. It's ridiculously formulaic, and then there's a big event at the end of the third game that breaks all of that conformity, and suddenly the fourth game you're feeling the impact of not having that regimented schedule again. So it really is. It's two games of two that follow almost the exact same pattern.
And the internet, I remember, was very salty about the third game not pushing all the characters that you got to know in the first two games more to the background. They come save you at the end of each chapter, but you're spending way more time with Reen's students.
Including Musei, who's just a ton of fun.
Musei bothers me like Elise bothers me. It's like her whole personality is that she's in love with her teacher.
I like those characters that wear their heart on their sleeve like that, though, and aren't related to the character.
Yeah, at least she's not related to Reen.
It's really funny that the girl is making the inappropriate statements about her teacher, and the teacher has to keep going, no, 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 and everybody's like, oh, I see how it is. A little extracurricular activity, huh? No, 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 no.
Yeah.
Musei, please stop that.
They could do without that, honestly.
And then there's Yuna, who's super angry at her teacher and also in love with him.
I know. I thought I wouldn't like Yuna. But Yuna goes through so much character growth.
Yuna is from Crossbell, and between the Crossbell games and this game, the Empire has basically conquered Crossbell, and now she's at the Empire's Academy, and she has a lot of issues with that.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in Crossbell where she just breaks your heart. Yeah. And all of a sudden you realize, okay, I get every part of your character now. Yeah. Oh, my God.
I ended up loving you now.
That moment on the rooftop just breaks your heart.
And she has one of my favorite weapons. She uses tonfa batons that are also guns.
Yes.
So she can shoot.
She can shift between being melee or ranged.
Out of her tonfa batons. Yeah.
I used her a lot. She was great.
I used her a ton.
Yeah. And honestly, 3 and 4 feel very different from 1 and 2 in a lot of respects mechanically. Like they introduced break damage, which wasn't a thing in 1 and 2, but now it's just a normal part of the mechanics.
And it's like how you win boss battles if you're not one hit killing them, is you break them and then they can't take a turn.
Yep. And then you kill, and then you have Laura one hit kill them. Oh, and we shouldn't forget about your favorite boy, Ash.
Oh, Ash. Yeah, Ash Carbide. He's the bad boy.
He's very bad at one point.
He's really bad. Yeah, and he's the hot one.
With the troubled past.
He has a troubled past, yes. And he has a glowing eye. And he uses a scythe.
A scythe with a detachable head, so it's a scythe whip.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's very cool. He's trying very hard to be cool, and it's working.
And then there's his classmate Kurt.
Kurt just gets lost.
Kurt's family is a famous sword-using family, and Kurt is just massively insecure because they're all giant, beefy men, and he's a little femboy.
He looks like his mom.
So instead of wielding one gigantic sword, he's dual-wielding 2 swords, and he feels very insecure about it.
His mom's really cool, though.
Oh, yeah.
I love his mom. And Altina. We didn't say Altina. She's the sexualized 12-year-old from the second game who is now 14, even though she's really, 2 because she's a homunculus.
Yeah. Along with her sister.
At least in 3 and 4, they give her, normal-looking clothes to wear, and she's not wearing a spandex.
Running around with her spandex midriff,
right.
And bunny hood.
I like her, that's the thing, is they give you this, weird, sexualized 12-year-old, which is very uncomfortable, but then she has that same, fun, dry, sarcastic sense of humor like Tio had in the Crossbell games. So I like her personality.
The plot of Cold Steel 1 through 4 is incredibly dense. Mm-hmm. There's a lot going on, and your characters don't have access to most of the information until the very end, and there's betrayals within betrayals and surprises. It's Honestly, we can't even break down the plot very well here. It's too layered and too complex. We would be here forever. It's good. I love the Cold Steel games. I played 1 and 2 and immediately went, okay, these are amazing. I have to go back now and play all the games that led up to them. So I played Sky 2 and 3 and then the Crossbell games, and then I was able to play 3 and 4. By the end of that run, I was exhausted. I very nearly burnt out on these games because they are so
Cold
long.
Steel is a bit much. They went kind of too far with Cold Steel. I love the games, but they went too far, and I think they know it because from what I've seen of Kuro no Kisuke, which is the name of the game the newest game in Japan, is they have toned it down in terms of like the number of characters.
Sure. Although Fee's back.
Fee is back, yeah. She has a new hat, just like Malibu Stacy.
She gets to keep growing up.
Yeah, because Fee was super popular and it was well deserved. But yes, I can see in like the footage I've seen of the new game, and they've even made statements that like we really went too far with the characters and the complexity and everything.
There's a lot going on in Cold Steel.
And so they took us to Calvard, which is the sort of United States analog in this universe. And there's a lot less characters, but they have more to do.
My understanding, though, is that the main character is not a super optimistic, upbeat guy. He is instead a grizzled detective living in the gray zone.
Not really.
He's also in his mid-20s, but he's grizzled.
They took out the romance from the new one.
But how?
There's a canonical romance again now.
But how am I supposed to love?
You can't date all of the women. You can't date the 16-year-old that comes knocking at your detective agency door.
I was just going to try and find Instructor Sarah again.
Yeah, that's true.
Instructor Sarah was a fun
There's
romance.
a canonical age-appropriate romance, so I'm sorry to everyone that liked...
Which we haven't done since Trails in the Sky, because there's a slight...
Ellie and Lloyd.
There is
even not really canonical.
There is a romance mechanic, sort of, in Crossbell games.
Yeah.
It keeps track... There's invisible points of how close you are to individual people.
Yeah.
And then right before the big dramatic... climax, you get a scene with the one person that you're closest to. But again, it's not measurable like it is in Cold Steel, where you can check and see how close you are to people.
Right. But it's I still like the games. I think Cold Steel needed to tone it down a little bit.
There's also a big difference between the 1 and 2 and the 3 and the 4 in that I feel like they simplified things to make it easier for people.
Oh, they did.
Like the hidden objects, the hidden quests, the hidden books are marked on your map now.
Yeah.
You can look and see, oh, there's something in that house over there. There's a hidden thing in that house over there. I just got to go in and talk. Whereas up to that point in the series, no hints.
You really had to just explore everything.
You just had to go everywhere and talk to everyone and hope you didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
And the game got mean occasionally because it'd be things like, Lloyd, the building next door is on fire and we have to go put it out. People are dying right now and it's right next door and we can help. If you don't walk to the other side of the city and talk to one person randomly walking around the mall, you will never get this hidden item.
Yeah,
if you instead run right next door and try to save lives, you will never see that hidden item. Like, what the hell?
They did that. I was fixing to ask you if you ever played Lunar, which obviously you did.
I have played Lunar 1 and 2.
Because we have reviewed them. But they did that with the bromides in Lunar, which were sexy pictures of ladies.
Ooh.
You had to like go.
I don't think I ever found those.
Did you never find it? Yeah, they're really hard to find, but there's like 20 of them. And it's sexy pictures of the ladies in the game that you can get by going and talking to this random NPC at this time in between this critical event. So now you have to go replay Lunar.
But we have left out my favorite NPCs, Ricky.
Ricky and Anton. Yeah.
Ricky and Anton.
I think they're a couple. I mean, in my head, they're a couple.
No, because Anton ends up... Is it Anton or Ricky that ends up with Sharon?
Well, yeah, I know.
But Ricky and Anton show up in almost every Trails game.
Yeah, they were in the first one. They were in Trails in the Sky.
They were in Trails in the Sky 1, 2, and 3. They were in Crossbell 1 and 2. I think there is a Cold Steel game they are not in. And
I don't think there is. I really think they're in every one.
well, the last one, at least, one of them is missing.
Oh, true. Yeah.
But I think I recall both of them being absent for a game. Maybe I just didn't find them.
Probably didn't find them.
But
Because
it's
there's
just-
like one, in Cold Steel 1, there's like one hidden quest with them.
It's just super fun that these two random NPCs who never contribute anything to the plot at all. They do not matter. But they are in every game just traveling the world with each other. I know during Cold Steel 2, Anton is constantly looking for Ricky. Ricky's been lost.
Right.
So Anton
Because
is...
of the war. It's an impact
Yeah.
of the Civil War.
So as you're going around in the Civil War, you keep running into Anton just going, Ricky! Ricky! Where are you? Just over and over and over. And it comes back around to that. That's one of the things I love about this series is the world does feel so lived in, like you said.
Yeah.
The characters all have their own lives, even though it doesn't impact the story. In Cold Steel 1, there's a story of a married couple that are sniping at each other. They decide to call it quits. Then their little son, starts pressuring them, to stop acting like children, and they rekindle the love between them.
Mm-hmm.
All of that happens, and you can experience each and every step along the way, and it has nothing to do with anything that's going on.
Yeah.
It is just a little story that you only get to experience if you talk to everybody all the time.
That's true.
There's lots of NPCs that I liked. I liked the twins, Lindy and
Vivi.
Lindy and Vivi. And then they ended up being voiced by the Hyperdimension
I know.
Neptunia. That was fun. That was fun for me.
They were Neptune.
Because they're fun characters. They're never in your party, but sometimes
They're
they
just
matter a little
classmates,
bit. Yeah,
yeah.
they're classmates because they're identical twins, but one of them is a troublemaking prankster.
Vivi's the prankster, and Lindy is the serious one.
Yeah, the button down, serious. But sometimes they'll swap places,
Yes.
and all of a sudden, Lindy will start hitting on you, and you're like, "What even is happening right now?" And then it turns out that they swapped hairstyles.
Yeah.
To play with people, and Lindy's like, "Why did I let her make me do that? I shouldn't do that."
And you can't forget about Rosine.
Rosine.
Rosine is the only three women, I'll tell you this, the only three women in the whole series that Reen canonically, like, not in bonding events, but shows interest in outside of bonding events are Instructor Sarah, Claire, and Rosine. And Rosine is a nun.
Yes, but she's
She's a battle nun. I mean,
yeah, she's a battle nun.
She's a battle.
Well, she's training to be a battle
she's training
nun.
to be a battle nun. Yes.
We have met a battle nun
But
in the series.
the only sexual interest that Reen shows is in Rosine's chest. Not in any of the girls that you can actually date.
What about Edie's?
Yeah, it's true.
Edie is another classmate with an impressive bosom. Since this is just boob talk now, this is what we're doing. There's a lot to Cold Steel.
Yeah,
and arguably, so there's apparently arguments online, and here's what's fun is since we have this podcast, we can state our side as if we're right.
True.
And we don't have to listen to people disagree
We are
with
right
us.
because you bought a microphone.
I bought multiple
several
microphones.
microphones.
I spent a lot of money on this setup. So at the end of the Crossbell games, there's just a little text crawl that talks about, a civil war broke out in Erebonia, and this side won, and this person faked their death. It comes up at the end of Trails to Azure, and I'm glad I played the games in the order that I did.
Yeah.
Because I played those after I played Cold Steel 1 and 2. That brief summary that I just gave basically tells you the main plot of Cold Steel 1 and 2,
Yes,
especially
true.
2, including the reveal that, a character's not really dead. Although, to be fair, most characters have fake deaths in this
very
series.
few characters actually die.
Weirdly, one of the
world.
Ouroboros guys dies in the second game and stays dead.
Yeah.
And then after that, they're just like, we're not killing anybody else, though. Everybody else fake it. But there's a lot of debate online because I played them out of order. I played Cold Steel 1 and 2, then went back and caught up. And I was like, I'm glad I didn't see that. That would have spoiled it for me. And people lost their shit online. Pardon my language. you can't say it's spoiled because the Crossbell games came out first. Okay, sure, in release order they came out first, but they occur at the same time in the realm, so you could play them in either order because they occur at roughly the same time. And I think it makes more sense to play them in an order that doesn't tell you what's coming.
Yeah. I think people were salty about that when those games first came out in Japan. They were like, why are you just showing us a thing that you summarized in 5 minutes at the end of Trails to Azure?
People really tore into me for saying it spoils the plots of Cold Steel 1 and 2 because you can't say it's spoiled because it came out first. I'm not saying spoiler alert.
It did not come out first in the United States.
Not in the United States, sure.
Yeah.
It ruins the dramatic tension if you know what's going on. I don't care that that's the order they came out in. I am personally glad I played Cold Steel 1 and 2 before I played the Crossbell games.
Yeah.
Although by the end of Cold Steel 2, I was going, what is with that? What's up with that? Now there's a tree. Now there's a shield. What the hell's happening? And then I played the Crossbell games and went, okay, got it.
This is what's happening.
Yeah. Was I spoiled knowing that at some point there was a shield and at another point there was a tree? No, because I had no context for that.
Yeah.
As opposed to flat out saying, this character fakes their death, and this side wins the Civil War. So anyway, so that's Cold Steel.
It is.
Lots of great characters, lots of great story. Maybe too much. It's a bit much.
It is a bit much, yes.
I was playing, God, I can't even remember which one it was now. I think it was probably 2, where like I got to the end of the game. I was doing the finale.
Yeah.
And after I beat the chapter titled finale, there was an interstitial chapter with some word titled some word I've never heard of before. Mm-hmm. It wasn't interstitial. It wasn't interregnum. It was something. Some word I've never heard before. And then there was another chapter. And I'm like, do you guys not know what finale is?
Yeah.
I finished this game 20 hours ago.
3 endings of Cold Steel 2.
Calm down. You've got more games to tell story and relax, bro. And yeah, so Trails of Reverie is out, not for us. It'll come out for us eventually, which is basically wrapping up.
It is the end game. It is the Avengers end game
of this entire Sky.
And it truly is, because
Crossbell.
it's like it wraps up the first 10 games, and then they're continuing with. It really is exactly like Marvel, because it's like they're continuing, and the old movies are still canonical. It's the end of the Infinity Saga. They're not really rebooting anything, but they're saying like this is the period on this portion.
This is the end of Phase 3. Then we'll start Phase 4, and it is Phase 3 because it's the third series in the series. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to playing. I'm going to buy the Crossbell games, even though I've already done my review play of one of them. I'm going to buy both of them. They're great.
Definitely support.
Also, the series carries over. It carries over your saved games. It knows if
for
you
each
beat
duology.
It knows if you accomplish certain things. Sometimes it'll reference specific quests if you did them or not. You get extra items because we recognize that you played, and that's always kind of neat. I like games that make you feel like your journey has mattered. So that's all we've got for the Trails and the Legend of Heroes Trails series. They are great. There is if you want lore and you want characters and you want to lose hundreds of hours of your life.
I mean, it's about 100 hours per game.
The earlier games are closer to 60.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, because I did look this up, it's like 60, 60, 40. And then 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100.
Because
sure. And
I put in like 80 or 90 to Sky 2. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
But I was doing the medium off how to beat. Yeah. The third one really is significantly shorter. But no matter how you play these, you're talking 300, 400, 600, 700 hours of your life. But it was worth it for me. I enjoyed it.
As did I.
And I've enjoyed reviewing them with you.
I have too.
Listeners at home. Not so much with Russ.
How dare you?
Russ thought a genuine compliment was coming his way. His face lit up.
I should have known better. It's been 20 years. I should have known better.
Anyways, we will see you guys next time. I do not know what next month's side quest will be. It's a mystery to us all. We hope you'll join us and find out.
Yes, please do.
All right, bye.
Until then.